19-year-old Robin West was wild and adventurous. Ever since she was a young child, her parents struggled to tame her. She bounced from behavioral and mental health institutions to alternative schools throughout her short life. When she turned 18, she moved out of her mom's home and in with friends. Without a high school education, she sought out alternate means to make ends meet. She worked as a stripper for a period of time, then transitioned into sex work. She and a close friend of hers named Bernicia ran ads on websites to solicit men to exchange sex for money. In late August 2016, the same friend suggested that they celebrate Robin's 20th birthday in New Jersey, which was a little over an hour from where they lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her birthday was on September 5th, so they made their way to Union City, New Jersey a few days before. After a while, they ran out of cash and resorted to the easiest and quickest way they knew how to make money: sell their bodies. This time around, instead of posting an ad, they decided to walk the streets of a neighborhood littered with abandoned homes. A man drove up next to them in a BMW. He was young, handsome, and seemed nice enough, so Robin got in the car with him and drove away. As a security measure, Bernicia typed the man's license plate number in her phone as she stood on the sidewalk waiting for her client. The next day, Bernicia called and texted Robin repeatedly but got no answer. She quickly reported her missing and provided the police the license plate number of the man Robin got in the car with the night before. The police got in contact with a 20-year-old New Jersey man named Khalil Wheeler Weaver. He was very pleasant and cooperative. He confirmed that he was with Robin on the night of August 31st. He said that he took her out to dinner and then dropped her off in front of a home in the city of Orange. He hadn't heard from her since. The police thanked him for his assistance and sent him on his way. 2 weeks after Robin went missing, the family got the call they were hoping to never receive. Robin was found deceased. She was found earlier on September 1st when a concerned neighbor called the fire department to report an abandoned home on fire in Orange. The firefighters fought the blaze and discovered a body charred beyond recognition inside. It took authorities 2 weeks to confirm her identity since they had to rely only on dental records. The following month, on October 22nd, a 33-year-old woman named Joanne Brown went missing. Like Robin, Joanne had struggles in life from a young age. As a child, she suffered from bipolar disorder and schizophrenia. Through it all, she was still able to graduate from Westside High School in Newark, New Jersey. At some point in her life, she began to use drugs and danced as a stripper for many years. She was also a sex worker. Joanne attempted to get help, but the lure of the lifestyle had a strong hold on her. On the last day she was seen, she was doing her usual, which included standing outside waiting for a client with friends who also were a part of the lifestyle. That afternoon, shortly after 1 p.m., a client pulled up. Joanne got in the passenger seat and they drove off. When going out with the client, Joanne had somewhat of a buddy system with her friend Amina. She would call Amina to let her know where she was and when she'd be back. On this day, Joanne did not have her cell phone. Instead, she called Amina from her client's cell phone just to check in. A couple hours later, the same cell phone number called Amina back, but instead of it being Joanne's cheery voice on the other end, it was complete silence. So Amina hung up and kept calling back with no answer. She then reported Joanne missing. As the holidays began to approach, 20-year-old New Jersey City University student Sarah Butler was preparing to go home for Thanksgiving break. Sometime before she left, she created a profile on a dating app called Tagged. On November 19th, she came across a profile of a guy with the screen name Lil Yacht Rock. As soon as they began to chat, he immediately asked if she wanted to make some money. Sarah thought he was referring to a credit card scam, so she politely declined. He decided to be more direct by asking her if she wanted to have sex for money. Sarah, she came from a solid, close-knit family. Although money was tight from time to time growing up, she believed in working hard for what she wanted. In fact, she set a goal to be the first butler in her family to graduate from college and was well on her way to achieving said goal. Even though sex for money was not in her life plan, as a struggling college student, she was intrigued. She messaged wow and asked how much. They settled on $500. She then asked if he was a serial killer in a joking manner. He obviously replied no. They set the date. Sarah got cold feet, so she never showed up. They rekindled the conversation after the missed first date. 2 days later, on November 22nd, Sarah agreed to meet up again and follow through on their plans. After her mom picked her up from college, she asked to borrow her van and promised to be back in a few hours. A few hours turned into overnight. Her mom and sister called and texted with no answer. It was not like Sarah to be out all night with the family car and not answer her mom's calls. The family reported her missing. 3 days after she went missing, her mom's van was found. Evidence in and around the van led them to believe Sarah was in serious danger. Sarah's sister Basanya and friend Samantha immediately sprang into action by checking Sarah's social media apps in which she had the passwords to. They logged into the dating app tagged and read through Sarah's last messages with Lil Yacht Rock. They felt strongly that this guy had something to do with her disappearance, so Basanya and Samantha conjured up a plan to trap the man and convince him to give them information on Sarah's whereabouts. The ladies created a fake profile on the dating app and came upon the same guy named Lil Yacht Rock that was messaging with Sarah. On November 26th, the guy reached out to the fake profile and began to offer cash for sex. They set a date, but instead of Basanya or Samantha showing up, 2 detectives did. They questioned the man who went by Lil Yacht Rock and learned that his real name was Khalil Wheeler Weaver. They later released him because there was no evidence of a crime and no reason to pin him as a suspect. The police continued to search for Sarah. On December 1st, the police tracked Sarah's phone to the last place there was a ping, Eagle Rock Reservation, which was just a few miles away from her home in Montclair, New Jersey. There beneath the leaves and some debris was a body that appeared to be strangled to death with a piece of clothing, then discarded. That body belonged to 20-year-old Sarah Butler. Thanks to Sarah's sister and friend, the police already had a suspect in mind, Khalil Wheeler Weaver, aka Lil Yacht Rock. 5 days later, he was arrested. In 2019, 3 years later, he stood trial for 11 charges, including murder and kidnapping. Police were able to connect him to the death of not only 20-year-old Sarah Butler, but also of Robin West, the 19-year-old that was found in a burnt building, and 33-year-old Joanne Brown that went missing after getting in the car with a client. Contractors stumbled upon Joanne's body on December 5, 2016, in an abandoned home not far from where Khalil lived with his mother. She died in a similar manner as Sarah, strangulation with an article of clothing. Police had over 40 witnesses and at least 1,000 pieces of evidence that linked Khalil to the death of all 3 of the women. In addition to witnesses stating that the last time that they seen the women, they were getting in the car with Khalil, authorities found blood from one of the victims in his car, his DNA under another victim's fingernails, and cell phone data that tracked him to every location the women's bodies were found. But that's not it. Prosecutors had a star witness that would prove to put the final nail in Khalil's coffin. There was a 33-year-old woman named Tiffany that met Khalil through a friend in the early part of 2016, the same year the victims met their demise. Tiffany said that Khalil was obsessed with her and constantly made advances. She brushed them away because he was much too young. He then began to up the ante and started offering to pay her to have sex with him. She finally relented and agreed to meet him at his house for the rendezvous. The day that Khalil had been waiting for had arrived. Tiffany went inside and up to his room. He put the cash in her hand, but before they could get started, she made an excuse to go back out to her car. She got in and drove away, cash in hand, never to speak to Khalil again. So she thought. As the months passed, Tiffany's life began to go into a downward spiral. By November, she had become addicted to drugs and a sex worker. On the 15th of November, she agreed to a date with an unknown man. The man arrived at her motel wearing a ski mask, which was not unusual since it was fairly cold that night. They got in her car to search for a place to render her services. The last thing she remembered was him asking her to pull over, then her being restrained in the backseat of her car. The unknown man snatched off his ski mask, then asked if she remembered him. It was Khalil, the same man whose money she ran off with earlier that year. She struggled to get out the handcuffs and duct tape he placed on her while she was unconscious. She managed to mumble that she was pregnant and not to hurt her. As the duct tape loosened, she continued to speak and convinced him to take her back to her motel room because his name, number, and text messages were in her phone, and her phone was back at the motel. He panicked a little and agreed that they needed to get her phone and erase all evidence. Once they pulled up to the motel, Tiffany sprinted to her room and locked herself inside. There was actually security footage backing up what Tiffany reported. She eventually called the police but claimed they did nothing. If police would have took action, it's possible that one of the victims would still be alive because just 7 days after Tiffany broke free from the killer, he went on to kill Sarah Butler. The trial carried on for 2 months. On December 19, 2019, after less than 3 hours of deliberation, the jury found Khalil Wheeler Weaver guilty. In October 2021, he was sentenced to 160 years in prison. He must serve at least 145 years in prison before being eligible for parole. I think it's safe to say that he will rot in prison for his 3-month killing spree. But what triggered this young man that came from a good home, the stepson of a retired police officer, and a security guard with aspirations of working in law enforcement to hate these women so much that he had to kill them? Were Robin, Joanne, Tiffany, and Sarah his only victims? Unfortunately, no. On March 31st, 2022, he was charged with the murder of 15-year-old Mawa Duambia. Her family, who lived in Newark, New Jersey, last saw her leaving home on the night of October 7, 2016. They reported her missing, but she was not found until April 19, 2019. Her remains were found in an abandoned home, showing evidence of death by strangulation. The remains were positively identified to be the 15-year-old's. Cell phone evidence concluded that the same day Mawa went missing, Khalil messaged her untagged, the same app he used to contact Sarah Butler, and offered her money for sex. His cell phone tracked him to the area where Mawa lived and the abandoned home her remains were found inside of. Even with the mountain of evidence against him in all of these cases, Khalil claimed he did not commit the crimes and was set up by the Essex County Prosecutor's Office. Today, he is 27 years old and sitting, hopefully uncomfortably, in the New Jersey State Prison. My sincerest condolences to the family of Robin West, Joanne Brown, Sarah Butler, and Mawa Duamba. I also want to thank Tiffany for her strength and courage to come forward and confront the man that brought so much pain and sorrow into the lives of these women and their families. As usual, I want to thank you so much for stopping by Her True Crime with me, Miss Jackson. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, be aware, be safe out there.